Howdy! Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan called The Eye of the World. I've actually been meaning to read this book for kind of a while, so I was excited to pick it up and kind of check it out. I'm going to start with a summary, and then after that I'm going to give a review. So if you don't want to listen to my summary, you can skip ahead and I will leave a timestamp below. I'm gonna do my best to summarize this. So The Eye of the World starts off in this small farm town kind of place called Emmons Field, and this is in a place called Two Rivers. The main character it kind of follows is a young man named Rand. He's like a farmer's son, and it follows Rand and his two friends, Matt and Perrin, as well as this girl, Egwene. I don't really know how to say her name, but Egwene is a couple years younger than them, and she is really interested in getting out of Emmons Field. She really wants to go on an adventure. I'm going on an adventure. So yeah, that's kind of the setup. So basically at the beginning of the book, they're celebrating this holiday after a really long winter, and their town welcomes a gleeman who's like a type of entertainer. His name is Tom. And then there are these two kind of mysterious visitors. One is named Moraine and the other is named Lan. And we find out later that Moraine is something called an Aes Sedai. I don't know how to say that either. I don't know how to say, sorry about this, I don't know how to say a lot of these names, but Moraine does some sort of magic stuff. Basically, while they're getting ready for this celebration, their entire town is attacked by these creatures called Trollocs. They're demon creatures, and they're kind of demon creatures. They're kind of like orcs, is in my mind what they are. And so all of these scary creatures attack their village, and after the attack, Rand's father is injured, so he rushes to the village wisdom, whose name is Nynaeve. And once he realizes she can't help, he goes to this Moraine lady who heals him with her magic. She's like, I'm an Aes Sedai, let's get out of here. There's something in common, which is that they came for the young men in the village. So they came for Rand and Matt and Perrin. And she's like, we need to get out of here. We need to get you guys to Tar Valon, which is the city where a bunch of Aes Sedai live. Sorry about that. I am back now. I've got a co-host. So basically Moraine is like, okay, Matt and Perrin and Rand, you all need to leave, otherwise these Trollocs are just gonna keep coming. So we need to go to Tar Valon, which is the city where a bunch of Aes Sedai live, I guess. Along the way, Nynaeve actually has been following them and tracking them because she doesn't trust Moraine. And so they discover Nynaeve's been following them and she joins them. So it is the gleeman Tom. Egwene insists on going along because she wants to see adventure. Rand, Matt, Perrin, Moraine, Lan. This crew is headed to Tar Valon, but they're being pursued by all of these Trollocs, so they end up stopping in this abandoned city called Shadar Logoth. I don't know how to say it. Shadar Logoth. While they're in the city out exploring, Matt, Rand, and Perrin run into this demon thing named Morgoth, and Matt actually steals this really fancy dagger from all of his treasure and brings it with him. The Trollocs invade the abandoned city. They all have to flee and get separated while fleeing. Rand, Matt, and Tom all end up by the river, and they manage to get on a boat that's going to this place called Whitebridge. So they're on this boat going to Whitebridge. Matt is acting super weird with his dagger. He's acting very Gollum-y, very old Bilbo with the ring. Not great. Tom gets separated from Matt and Rand. Matt and Rand manage to escape and go to this city called Camlon. This is actually also the city that Egwene and Perrin decided to go to when they got separated. So Egwene and Perrin are also going here. Along the way, they run into this guy named Elias who can talk to wolves or something. I don't really know his deal, but he seems sketchy, and turns out he's not so sketchy. I don't know. It's complicated. Then they managed to meet back up with Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve. All of them meet back up together. So Rand had actually met this ogre guy in Camden or whatever that was like, oh, Moiraine, like, there's a threat to the Eye of the World, and like the Dark One is basically gonna ruin everything. And Moraine's like, uh-oh, that's not great. So they go to the Eye of the World to protect the Eye of the World, and then Rand actually ends up basically using that to defeat the Balthazar guy. It's the like this demon guy that's been coming to him in his dreams, and I don't know if that's the same thing as the Dark One, but yeah, it's this like demon guy who's been coming to Rand in his dreams. He's actually been coming to Matt and Perrin in their dreams as well. So he ends up like obliterating all these Trollocs with it. Moiraine sees that and she's like, something's going on here. There's something special about you, Rand. That's basically the best summary that I can give, but I definitely missed a lot of parts. If you want the details, you can read it yourself. But I'm gonna move on to the review now because I definitely have some thoughts on this. And I think overall, I'll say overall I liked it, but as far as fantasy books go and as far as a fantasy series goes, so far I do not feel the same pull that I have of other fantasy series that I've read. I'm not sure if I love it, but it's good and I liked it. You can see that there's really heavy inspiration from Tolkien in this series, especially The Lord of the Rings. This comes across not only in just like the general tone, I think it also comes across even in some of the names. So for example, in Eye of the World, one of the names is the Mountains of Mist, which of course evokes the Misty Mountains. That's really, really similar. There's clearly some inspiration there, and that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, but it's definitely worth noting, especially in the beginning of the book. It feels very much like The Lord of the Rings, that kind of vibe, but it's not the same at all as it goes on. So you can tell he kind of used that inspiration to maybe kickstart his ideas, but they really do become his own ideas, and it is definitely its own independent thing. I think there's a little bit of a difference in interpersonal dynamics. I think that interpersonal dynamics are hugely at play in this, and the relationship between Rand and Egwene, or the kind of relationship between Moiraine and Nynaeve. Those interpersonal dynamics definitely make this feel dimensional. They give the story a lot of dimension. So I think that that's a really nice feature, and I like that. And fantasy stories don't always have quite so many layers with the interpersonal dynamics. So I think that that's a nice thing. Kind of in that same vein, the writing itself is very detailed. It's very descriptive. It can bring you there very easily. I would almost say sometimes it almost includes details that actually feel a little bit unnecessary. It's well written, it'll draw you in pretty well. Something else that I really like that is also a feature of like Lord of the Rings, so here's another overlap that they have, which is that kind of fellowship, that camaraderie that develops between a group of people that are kind of thrown together to have like this common goal. I really like that. I think that that's a nice feature, and I think that that's a good reminder of sometimes when you're forced into situations with people who you think that you would hate or you have so many differences with, you actually find out that there's a lot of similarities you have, or maybe your similarities matter more than your differences. I also think that the story seems to have some of the types of religious parallels that are in a lot of fantasy stories. There's like the kind of good and evil, but what I like in this is it's a little bit more where it's not necessarily like, oh, the power is all evil, or these people are all good, whereas it's definitely got those gray tones. Like the Aes Sedai, some people think that they're like really bad, but a lot of what they do is really good, and you're kind of not really even sure. You're like, well, it's gotta just be a mixed bag. She can come in, I'll just edit this.
Oh, that's cute. You're doing it with Lily.
Yeah.
Talk about adapting.
I know. I was like, I really want to film my review, but you know what? She really wants to be held.
Did you finish your book?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. How was it?
I don't know. It was good, but
Is
I
it
don't.
good enough to read the next one, or?
That's where I'm not sure. If there's one thing that I feel like this book actually did really, really well, it was building suspense. Like when Rand goes back to his house and he leaves his father in the woods, when they're in Shadar Logoth and the shadows are following them. I feel like those are just some of the scenes that build suspense really, really well. It was definitely good kind of edge of your seat suspense, which doesn't always happen really in a fantasy, so I appreciate that. While the short suspense, like scene to scene, is really, really well done, the long-term plot suspense was not quite as tactful. So that's definitely something that was an interesting juxtaposition. I don't think that makes it bad or anything like that. It just definitely wasn't quite as really well done as the short-term suspense. But overall, I felt like it was a really good book. I'm torn because I think it was a good book, but I don't know if I'm going to read the next one anytime soon. It's not one where I was like, oh, I absolutely have to pick up the next book right away. And to me, that means that it was okay. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't great. It was just pretty good. But usually if I absolutely love a book in a series, I need the next one right now, like right away. So I don't really have that feeling with this, but I am also very sleep deprived, so that could just be part of it too, where I'm just maybe not as excited in general. It was lacking something for me. I actually wasn't super interested in the kind of mythology surrounding the Dark One and Balthazar and Ismail and all of that. I wasn't super interested in that, and obviously that's kind of the main driving force of the plot. If that doesn't interest me, then I don't know if I would like continue reading a lot of these books. I'm more interested in like the Aes Sedai, and I'm definitely also interested in Rand's journey. I feel like it's more the Aes Sedai that interests me, so if I get to see more of that, then I would read more of them. And that's just a personal preference, so that's okay. I also feel like if you like The Lord of the Rings, you would probably like this book. It does have a lot of the same dynamics, like the Fellowship and the kind of dark forces, definitely commentary on power, and the Trollocs, which are super orc-like. I think there's definitely a lot of similarities, so depending on what you enjoy about something like Lord of the Rings, maybe you would like this. I would definitely recommend it and say if you like fantasy, give it a shot, because if you don't like it, you can just not read the other ones. I mean, I liked it even if I don't read the other ones. I think that's gonna be it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you have read The Eye of the World or any of the Wheel of Time books down below. I'd be interested to see the opinions of other people who have read this and read this series. That's it for this video. I will see you later.